Do we leave out anybody? Anybody not get to go? I'm gonna give it. It's a great segue. But first, eat it, Chris. Yes, it's an inside joke. Anybody likes Tony Kornheiser? That's an inside joke. He's got a podcast. So eat it. This is great. You actually served this up on a tee for me. You didn't realize it. So we do go to these conferences, right? And we meet a lot of people, and there's a lot of interaction with each other. So here's my tip. It's very simple. Before you leave, I want you to look someone in their eyes, shake their hand, give them a hug, and tell them to have a safe journey, or tell them I'll see you later. But I want you to actually, when you do it, mean it. Don't just, hey, see you later. Go, and I want you to shake their hand and give them a hug, look them in the eye, say, it was great talking to you. It was so fantastic getting to know you better. Do it, build these relationships, and it'll benefit you in the long run. So I got a little emotional when you started to talk. So that not you, your wife, Gretchen. So this has been fantastic. Jim, hopefully he'll make his way back. He has an interview over at the federal courthouse for one of his clients. It's sort of an urgent thing, so he's going to come back as soon as he can. But this has been fantastic. We do want to do a panel, and we're going to do a little bit different than yesterday. I'm going to bring, I think, all the speakers that we have left up here, and I'm going to moderate it just to make it a little bit easier. So I'll walk around handing the microphone. So if you were a speaker, come on up here. Gary, John, Mitch, Annika, who else am I missing? Oh, Seth, there you go.
So my question is on team building, like if you have key members of your firm, or like ideas, suggestions on hiring practice and how to find good people, like if you have any particular strategy, or if you just post an ad, or how do you do that?
One thing we do in our office is to empower all of the employees. Is Chuck buys us all business cards and encourages us to give them out to anyone that we'd like. So it kind of builds a little bit of, I don't know, responsibility or pride in where we work. So it's kind of, I mean, even the receptionists, everybody, every level gets their own business card.
Well, best employees have come from referrals and scaling. Historically, it's been Craigslist, and more recently, Indeed. Paid Indeed, not free Indeed, so.
The only way that I've ever found, because I'm terrible at hiring, is to poach people from other law firms where I already know are good. That works.
We got Gary's paralegal we could poach.
Stay away from things.
You can't poach my senior partner, who I married 30 years ago. So that's one way of establishing job security, is to marry a partner. But
It doesn't always work.
Were you married when you started?
And I would say everything we talked about and we've all listened to over the last couple of days to empower our teams, our employees, everyone back at the firm to engage in what we're doing, to empower them and give them permission to do everything that's been talked about today. And that brings them in and makes them as part of the team.
And the other thing I do is people want to come, I try to tell people, don't come to me. You're great, you do this, because then I become if it's a funnel to me, it becomes clogged up and it doesn't happen. So you're doing great, you know what you're doing, do it. Send that letter out, do it, great, you're fine. You know what you're doing, and try to empower that. I had someone ask me how long Rodney, my paralegal, is that a lawyer? Because he's negotiating a whole case for me. I'm like, no, Rodney, you do great.
Okay, I've got two. Mitch, I've got one for you specifically.
Sure.
So you speak with Tony Robbins, is that correct, right?
I am, yes.
Okay, and have you spoken with him already once?
Last August, I was on stage with David Merriman Scott, and then they asked me back this August.
Okay, and I was curious because I just watched his documentary and I wanted to know if he's as crazy and infectious as what he portrays on those types of
So
things.
full disclosure, I have not met him personally.
Okay.
It's a huge convention.
Really?
Okay. I did get to meet Raj, his personal photographer, who's awesome. But yeah, it's a pretty impressive experience, and I have nothing but positive things to say about what I observed.
Excellent. Okay, and then the second one is for you guys as teachers. I want to switch the role, kind of as students, as people that go to these conferences. We've all talked about how we have these lists of items and things to do, but then we've got the weekend with our families, and then we get back to work, and we're back in the flow. So how do you guys, as the teachers, kind of segment this stuff out to get working on these items? How do you actually implement it?
as Alicia said, I'm always preaching to my Legal Minds Mastermind, execute, take action. Because you're right, we all go home, life gets in the way, and nothing happens. So just execute, keep it simple.
I think I just said it, I just execute it. At the end of the week, if I'm not done a marketing piece, I do it. I just make myself do it, or I stay up at night. I like to work after my kids go to bed, but I get up, I work for a couple hours, it puts me, I sleep like a baby, and I just crank it out, I just get it done, dictate it, move it forward.
I switch roles after I go back to the office. But Chuck and I meet every morning with a list of, specific things that he wants done. And then also I have a running tally of all of my goals and deadlines, and it's on an Excel spreadsheet. We meet about that, maybe every other week. And also in all of our offices, we have one wall that's painted in dry erase board paint. And so I have everything that I have to get done on there, and just kind of check it off. And it's nice because anytime Chuck walks into my office, he can see what's going on and what I'm currently working on.
And something I started when I started first coming to conferences, and I'd get on the plane home, and my head would start to hurt because there was so much to get done. But I would take the notes on the plane and consolidate it to a top 10 list, and then sort of prioritize, say, hey, something sounds really good at the conference, but I don't have the resource to do it now. And then lastly, identify who, whether it's you or somebody else, that will do each of these items, because otherwise they're great ideas, but if they're not executed on, they don't do much.
For people who are struggling with the idea of writing a book, and it sounds like very intimidating, you don't have the time for that, the only thing I'd ask you to do is write 2 paragraphs. That's it. And what you'd find is if you went home and tomorrow you sat down and you said, before I do anything else, I'm just going to commit to 2 paragraphs, you'll just keep going. And then you'll find you've got a whole chapter written. But every time you sit down and do this, whether it's once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, write 2 paragraphs. That's all it takes.
And just to follow up, we all have different personalities. I got into business on my own from day one because I didn't like working for anyone else. I didn't like taking orders. Type A personality. I actually don't even like setting goals or long-term goals and following a schedule. I look at trying cases, it's more of an art form. Each case is different. Social media, building relationships, it's almost like, it's hard for me to explain. And so what I do, just in all fairness, is when I need to get something done, I use Practice Panther, but I've used my case and Clio over the years. I'll just write in a to-do. I'll just get it down and it's in the system. And then as the day progresses, depending on my mood, am I happy, am I sad, am I full of energy, I'll kind of look at the list and just work my way through it. So it's not structured, but for my personality, that works. And I know there's other people in here that have a similar personality, so don't get stressed out if you're not using Excel spreadsheets, case management programs, because life does go on. So just do what works with your personality.
Mr. Follow, why didn't you settle on Practice? Why did you settle on Practice Panther? You've gone through Clio and others. Why did you go to Practice Panther?
So for me, it has to be something that my front office team's going to be using. It has to be easy. And it's a long journey, but for me, looking at Practice Panther, and full disclosure, I'm a brand ambassador for Practice Panther. That was a factor for me using it. But it's just easy to use, and for me, it's mobile responsive. Out of all the systems I've used, it's the easiest for me to use on my phone. So for me, that was the primary reason. I will tell you guys, whatever case management program you use, make sure it's got a 24/7 private client portal, okay, so that your clients can access their case information, their calendars, communicate with you in encrypted, text messages and email at their convenience. And the reason that's so important is your phone will not ring as often, because the clients can answer their own questions as to what time tomorrow's hearing is going to be. But there's another reason why I love these third-party 24/7 client portals, is because you can build it into your marketing. We're a law firm that provides a service to our clients that very few law firms provide. You can access your case information at your convenience at 2 in the morning instead of having to wait until we open up at 9. So it's a great new marketing tool, and most of the major platforms allow you to do this.
It also saves you time, because
Big time.
I want to copy my medical records, and it's something that you can just, they can access
access to personnel. So, got a question over here. You hold on to it, John.
Okay. So this is kind of a weird question. One of my biggest time sucks is home stuff, not as much work stuff, right? So I'm curious if you guys, have any of you tried to hire a personal assistant, somebody to help with more of those, the day-to-day tasks that real, don't have canned forms and setting doctor's appointments and scheduling travel, that kind of thing. If you guys have any experience with personal stuff like
I mean, not personal, but work travel is, I've sort of outsourced. My big hack is cleaning person. To me, it like the stress on the marriage, it was extra hours, and that somebody told me when we had kids, as much help as you can afford reasonably to help you get through. To me, that was the area that helped me reduce, and when I'm home, spend time with the kids as opposed to chores.
One of the great things about Strategic Coach, and I know Jim is a member of that as well, is they get you to rethink what you do with your time and your mindset. So, for example, if someone else can do the task that we're talking about, let's say it's mowing your lawn, you have to pay someone else to do it. Are you a minimum wage worker, or is your time more valuable than that? And rethink every little activity that you do in terms of the value of your time. And the best lesson I got on this was actually from Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins had one of his Unleash, I forget what it's called, Unleash, but one of the speakers came back and said, Tony, I don't get it. I'm making $1 million, but I'm saying the same stuff you are. We're reading all the same stuff. Why is it that you're making 10 million and I'm making $1 million? And Tony Robbins said, who are you hanging out with? And he said, well, I'm hanging out with this other guy who's making $1 million, and this guy is making $1 million. And Tony Robbins said, that's your problem. You need to hang out with people like me who are making $10 million. So it's really about taking on a different mindset.
Yes, I've had people, I would be doing laundry at 11 o'clock at night and waking up and going grocery shopping. I've raised my kids, a lot of times I'm solo. I found that to decrease my stress level. The other thing I do is I usually hire, I've had a bunch of young women who work for me over the years, from about age 17 through 22, and then they go off to college, and I kind of mentor them. So they'll like watch my kids, but I also let them come into my office. They'll do my Facebook stuff, they'll do that. So I have a combo, do stuff at home and do my office. I've filled that role over the years. But yes, I think you need to globally think about your stress and what you're doing in the day, because there you go. I always say, going into work on Monday morning, I'm like ready to relax, taking deadlifts, because it's a lot to parent and be fully conscious and present with your family. So the answer, for me, the answer is yes.
I just stopped at one.
One kid or one personal assistant?
One kid.
You know, along those lines though, one of the biggest challenges I've seen attorneys, any professional make, is they don't separate their practice or business from their home life. And so they bring their work home. And so in those special moments when your son's up to bat, and instead of being there either coaching them or in the bleachers watching, you're on your phone closing a deal, you're looking at a file, and you're missing these opportunities in life. So I think for me, quality of life has always been able to, I'm really good at compartmentalizing. When I leave the office, I'm done. When I go home, it's 100% family, most of the time. Sometimes if there's a trial on Monday morning, it changes. But I try to keep the two separate, and I've noticed, I think it's made me a better human being, a happier lawyer, a better husband, and a much better father, so.
Well, I should say, in as much as I've done this with some of my outsourced people, like if normally I would spend an hour watching Netflix, if the reason I have that hour is because I'm paying somebody else $15 to do the thing I didn't want to do, I'm way less likely to watch Netflix for that hour, because I'm like paying somebody on the theory that I'm supposed to be making $300-400 an hour right now, so.
Yeah, if you're watching Netflix with your son, your daughter, and they're digging it, it's worth it, right? I mean, it just depends.
I got a couple ideas on that too. So something, part of it's organizing your home life. That's a big part of it, is keeping that organized. So we eat all of our groceries delivered now. It's a lot of these grocery stores offer it for free too. So we get our groceries delivered. We have meal plans when they're delivered. That saves a significant amount of time. So each each night I come home, I sit down dinner with my family because all these things that we've done internally to kind of save us some time. Something else is someone in Mastermind Experience has recommended a long time ago, and this is something about talking about home life and having a relationship with your spouse. Sometimes we tend to neglect our spouses, you know, we're focusing on the kids, we're focusing on the business, and they're sort of left out of this. So we have a scheduled date night every single Wednesday night. And I missed it this week, and it sucked because we've rescheduled it for actually tonight, so we'll be okay. But like every single Wednesday night, we have a date night, and it has done amazing things for our marriage. So I recommend picking a time, and if you have to hire a sitter, just set it, put it in your calendar. It's in my calendar, and so it's funny. So if someone wants to meet me at night, and they're talking to my assistant, they say, no, that's Tyson's date night. And clients love it too. They get to hear about a little inside about your life. So it's really effective. So I recommend doing that.
You know, I have to say, I think Mitch, Tyson, and I subscribe to Bob Burke's book, The Go-Giver, more than anything else. The principles in that book, and you could base a life on. And one of the principles, Tyson and I did a conference on this recently, a Zoom presentation. It's about if you focus on what you can get out of any relationship, many of us would think, well, can I get at least 50% or more on this relationship? But what if you rethought all of your relationships, including your spouse, and said, screw it, I'm just going to give 100% and I don't want anything in return. So one of our members of our mastermind, I said to him, look, he was having issues with his wife. He said, look, focus 100% on your wife, make a meal for her tonight, cook, clean, do everything. And she'll never forget that you did that for her. And so, you know, little stuff like that. I did that for my wife's, for Mother's Day, for my wife and the kids. I didn't allow them to do anything. And stuff like that, it has an impact.
Speaking of Bob Burke, okay, kind of just changing directions, I think it's one of Bob's best books. And before I mentor a young trial lawyer, I have them read Adversaries into Allies. It's one of the best people skills books I've ever read. So if you negotiate, if you're a lawyer, if you're in business, read Adversaries into Allies by Bob Burke, and it'll change everything. It's just amazing. And I'll just leave it at that. It's a great book.
So I have a question for Monica. You don't run a law firm, right? You run a marketing department of a law firm. And so I'm sure some people in here have someone like you, probably not as good, someone like you, or they want to have someone like you. What's your advice for people that want to have someone like you in their firm?
So I'm trying to answer this question in a way that can be repeated across your departments. I've helped attorneys find people. I mean, it starts with a good ad. We've placed ads on Indeed. We've had a lot of luck on Indeed. And you really want to find someone who gets it. And I know that that's kind of a cliche answer, and it's really hard to gauge that in an interview or maybe over the phone, but you have to have somebody who really cares. Like, I can tell that Kent really cares about helping, and I really care about helping. Like, I want to see everyone adopt these things, not because they can say, oh, Monica, help me with this, but just because I think that it spreads a lot of goodwill. But if you have a marketing plan in place that they can follow, and you have someone that can kind of help them along the way, and keep them accountable, and as they learn what type of marketing needs to go on in your office, I think those are two ways to help create a successful person. So a plan, and then like a mentor almost, that they need to stay in touch with.
I was going to say, one thing is to know what you want. I think John just has been through this recently, and we want to speak to it. What if you need somebody for digital versus you want somebody to help you with relationships, going out to set up appointments, and understanding that in certain areas, if it's offline marketing, you're sending people out to be chiropractors, there's an issue of keeping somebody engaged, because if the person's going to leave in a few months, then all their work goes with them. And I think thinking about what you want, and is it something that, my experience has been whenever I hire somebody new for a new position, and this includes offline marketing, which I'm really good with digital, but offline is sort of the one part I have not focused as much on. And whoever you hire first may not be the final person, but you almost have to make that hire, make the mistakes. I mean, I wish it would work out perfect the first time, but realistically, it's that sort of process of figuring out what you want and don't want, and you won't know that until you at least try one.
You know, totally jumping off subject, one thing I wanted to address is Will's, his presentation. One thing I highly recommend, and I can tell that he subscribes to the same theory, is Neil Patel has an email list you can subscribe to right now. Neil Patel is a master of online marketing, and his information is about 2,000 word articles a piece. They are incredible. I'm also a big fan of Neil Patel. The one thing, though, that he did touch upon is my belief that when you write an article that's flowing with great content, well, I try to write about the most esoteric content that you could imagine, not because many people will click on it, but because if you have a kid with this severe unique disability, this is the only articles that they're going to find online. For example, I handled a case for untreated atrial fibrillation, which is a very common heart disorder in the United States. And I wrote a case summary after the case settled, and afterwards, people from all over the country were contacting me. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I Googled the terms. No one was writing about untreated atrial fibrillation. I handled a case involving pituitary apoplexy. Nobody writes about that. No one cares about that unless you have a kid with that. So the more unique and esoteric your content, the more likely it is to convert.
So I have a question for Seth. Does anyone else have a question? So I'm going to keep asking questions unless you all have a question. Okay. So Seth, you've got a firm that has your name in it, all right? Price Benefits. Do people try to call your firm and say, I want Seth on my case, I want Seth on my case? And if so, how do you deal with it? If not, how did you get to that point?
Good question. So when we started, I didn't even want my name in it. My law partner is David Benowitz. I mean, at the law office, David Benowitz, because he's the badass trial lawyer. And so it is one of those things that I think is much less of a deal than most people think. We market the lawyers independently, so most people aren't calling for a lawyer. But what I have found is that if your intake staff understands your firm model and knows who's going to do it, for instance, Chuck Boyd is not going to handle your slip and fall case. If they can sell and focus you on the person who's going to do the work, we get little to no pushback. And the once in a while there's pushback, the lawyer would take the call for a minute, client is comfortable, and ends up being part of the team. What I don't like, and I see this in the criminal defense space, is for the named person to take the call, sell it, and then just send somebody else to court. I think that works. I mean, it makes money, but that the negative reviews come and there's much less client satisfaction, and that for the most part, what you need is the phone call in, and if staff can handle it properly, they can get to a person who's not the name of the firm.
All right, if anybody else doesn't have a comment on that, I've got a question. This is my favorite question. What's your biggest struggle?
Everything goes great.
I think mine is my internal systems and taking the time to do that, to work on those, to work the cases, keep things going. And I think one of the things I learned today is I need to stop. I need to find other solutions for it, paying the rental. I need to go get better case management software, outsource, find other systems to help me do that, because that's the thing that I can tell, that's all the thing I hate to do, right? So I need to find a solution. I think Chelsea talked about that too, so I need to do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that this is a struggle, but it's an observation. You know, I think a lot of people in our lives, we think about, we're going to get to a certain point and then everything's going to be great. We're going to be so happy. It doesn't work. That really doesn't work at all. I mean, even with any financial success that I've had, it really hasn't made me happy at all. None of the material stuff means anything to me. And so even if I resolve a big case, nothing, basically.
On Monday, it's like, when's the next one?
Well, no, not even that. It's just that it doesn't mean anything to me anymore. And the reality is, but what does matter to me is my relationships with my wife and kids.
I'll second that. Money does not buy happiness, and so if you're focusing on what you just said, family, that's what it's all about. I think for me, the biggest challenge, Tyson, is learning how to say no to potential clients, requests for favors, especially from friends of friends. Even though you can help someone, it takes a lot of time. And so I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, but I've got a credenza on the right side of my wall where I have my family pictures. And I look over there every time I have to answer a question, yes or no, and it reminds me that if I say yes to this phone call, it's going to take time away from them. And it's the best tool I have in my office to get me to say no when I should be saying no, which allows me to say yes to the right opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, I've got to go. I don't want to get stressed out and miss my flight.
Yeah.
So I want to just thank everybody for being here, and I hope I see you guys at the Legal Minds Mastermind. Tyson, tell Jim this was a great event. Thank you, my friend, and thanks for seeing everybody today. Sorry.
Did Annika and Seth, did you answer the question?
My biggest struggle is balance. I think it can be really easy to get sucked into all the things that I have to do at work, and also the struggle between like wanting to legitimize a way to help as many people as I can, and also do like the normal office stuff and be a mom and do all, and I think it's the difficulty of like, I really gotta do some soul searching, to figure out, because I'm not getting any younger, and my son's not getting any younger, and, my husband is just like one of my biggest fans, and he's starting to see all the great things that all these other attorneys are doing, so it's trying to figure out a way to make it bigger.
On a professional level, for me, it's keeping and retaining great talent. Thankfully, we've been pretty good with the churning talent, but what you're talking about hiring marketing people, and the people that are rock stars want to move on to other things. So I've struggled between keeping rock stars for a year or two before grad school, or lifers that come with their own whole set of baggage. And so, what I've tried to build systems on, what I struggle with every day, is how to bring people into that funnel, and then how to make sure that you keep the ones that you really like.
All right, I know we have flights to catch and things like that. Jim's not back. I was hoping I could sort of drag it, but I'm going to go with it. He's still stuck over there. Thanks, Pam. Thank you.
Hold on a second, we're not gonna let you go yet. We have a gift from everyone here, and we want to thank, first of all, you and Jim for putting together an amazing event. So, first of all, because we feel that you in fact are smarter than Jim, we felt that this gift here would be appropriate for you. There we go.
Awesome.
That's appropriately the number one, since he is smarter.
This is so awesome. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, we have Jim.
How about that, huh?